So a little bit about me before we jump in. I'm the head of customer success at Clear Company. Been with the company for 4 years. Customer success for us does include account management, onboarding, and customer success managers. A little bit different than some companies because we have that account management piece. Our company is a talent management platform. We focus on recruiting, performance, onboarding, and goal alignment. My personal background is in consulting and market research before I made the switch into SaaS. And I wanted to do a quick fun fact. I did once cook a meal with no main course. My husband had arranged to have people over for dinner 2 nights before our wedding, and I was a little bit preoccupied and ended up not only serving a meal with no main course, but every dish I served was orange. So he'll never let me forget that one. Today I want to talk a little bit about why this is a problem, why product communication is sometimes a struggle for us in customer success, how we identified that as a company, and then the lovely mistakes that we made along the way so that you can hopefully avoid those, how we implemented a new process, some of the results and success, and then a couple of key takeaways, lessons learned that hopefully you'll be able to take back. The importance of creating a product feedback loop starts with customer success's role as a whole. We're responsible for growth and retention of accounts. That happens when someone's engaged, feels like their business processes are being solved, and is getting great service. That second piece about business processes being solved, if we don't have an active feedback loop between our engineers, our product, and what the clients are asking for and what they need, that piece starts to drop off. There's only so much great service that you can provide. If your product is not speaking to those business needs, the client's not going to renew, client's not going to grow. So when we started looking into this problem and doing some research to figure out how can we get a better feedback loop so that our clients are being heard in the development room, we found a lot of information about client service and how to change a physical product or how to change a model or your pricing structure. But the actual communication between development engineers, customer success, or your sales team, there wasn't as much info in there. It wasn't as developed, so we tried a lot of different processes to see what worked for us. Customer advocacy is also on the rise in its level of importance. Our cost of acquiring a customer has gone up maybe 70 to 80% every year for the last 4 years. The HR tech field is a very, very congested field, so we needed to find a way to get our clients to continue to advocate for us, and we found that that feedback loop was a piece that was missing. If you are able to get this portion of your product right, you will increase revenue through those renewals, through the growth of your accounts, and cement your seat at the table. Customer success sometimes doesn't always get that executive level sponsorship or interaction, and for us, this really helped seal the deal for how much revenue can go up if you are communicating properly between those 2 departments. We identified this as a problem area for us when we were looking at our book of business from the last couple of years and saw that our retention rates in the enterprise were lower than our retention in the SMB. That was unexpected. We assumed it was going to be the opposite. SMB has a lot of issues with budgeting. It's a little bit less predictable. You're not as sticky because there aren't thousands of people logging into the product. So when we saw that that was a difference for us, we went back and talked to all of our enterprise clients that we had lost to see what we could have done differently. Obviously, there were a lot of pieces, but the main trend that we started to see is they were giving us feedback and telling us how we could better meet their needs from a product, not a service perspective, and we weren't doing anything about it. We were continuing to make changes to the product based on what we thought was going to be important and good for our clients, and not necessarily what they were asking for. We also noticed that we were getting ahead of renewals by warning the rest of our executive team that there was a risk, something wasn't working quite right, but everything was one-off that we were presenting, so people would listen, and then we would move on to the next thing. We wouldn't actually take action because there wasn't data behind it. There wasn't enough, this much revenue, this many clients, this exact change in the product. We also found that our product was designed by engineers and not clients. Our developers are amazing, but they're great at being developers and not necessarily in solving a business problem for a client. They're not the ones talking to the client. They don't always know. So we had a couple of unsuccessful rollouts. and by unsuccessful, some were very unsuccessful. The biggest piece that we had here, our development team rolled out a product that included pictures. So in HR, there's a lot of compliance risk and a lot of liability with having a picture of someone. You could be looking at them based on their gender, or age, or race, or ethnicity. So it changed the way that some of our clients were interacting with us. They felt like, you're just a vendor, you're not a trusted advisor, you don't get our business because you made this kind of mistake. Had this gone through our customer success team, it would not have been rolled out. We all know how sensitive HR is to having those types of pictures, but it was definitely a dent in our armor there. And we were getting really good reviews on things like software advice, but our NPS was low. So we found that people liked working with us, but they didn't necessarily feel like the product was meeting their needs. So we made a couple of mistakes along the way. Some of those decisions that we were making were based on gut. We felt like we knew, let's try this with clients. We need a better loop of communication. So we would try a couple of different things, see what stuck. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't, but we weren't coming in with a very measured approach. We also started doing all of these client updates, all of these pieces that clients had been requesting for years, and then we never closed the loop. So we had done all of this work and spent all of these resources and not gotten any of the value back to the client. Yes, they saw the product was in there, but to actually say, we made this change because this specific client asked and we're listening to you, we weren't getting any of that reward for that process. We also started getting a lot of feedback from clients at the beginning of the creation of a new product and then not talking to them again until the end when we rolled it out. A lot of changes happened along the way, and sometimes it didn't always look like the original piece that we had gotten feedback on in the beginning. We decided that escalation was going to be a bigger priority for us, although the escalation process was unclear. So it became, I would get emails from every single person in the company telling me what we needed to change, or they would email myself, our CTO, our CEO, our president. There was no measured way to escalate. So we made changes and we saved clients, but it was taking way too much time. And we ended up in a dev resource fight. So we wanted to streamline the implementation into 3 different phases. The most important one is ensure that we were solving the right problems the right way. We wanted to de-escalate some of those risky scenarios. And then this is my politically correct one of number 3 of don't mess things up. So solving problems the right way. The first thing that we did was implement a professional services program in customer success. It was not something that we had before, made a big impact on our ability to retain enterprise clients. They have no problem paying for some of these things that they want changed, but they need to have a method of getting these pieces of the product adjusted. We also implemented a pre-sprint planning cycle. We do sprints every 2 weeks, so every 2 weeks, customer success, marketing, sales sit down with our product and engineering team, look through the entire sprint, talk about any watch-out areas, anything that we know could happen. We get a preview before something is released, which was very important for us. And we also can give input on those future sprints to say, let's rearrange some of these priority levels. This might not be as important as this. We started doing quarterly NPS with weighting and segmentation. We were doing a lot with NPS before this, but everything was based on that holistic NPS number. We started weighting based on the revenue that clients were bringing in, based on the products they were subscribed to, length of time with us. And that allowed us to, every single time we were going into our executive meetings and we wanted to talk about why we had to make a change, we had exact revenue behind it. We could say, we're gonna lose $1.2 million if we don't make this change to this product by this timeline. And we can see the renewal dates of all of those clients that are gonna be impacted that care about making this change. We implemented a design circle and key client advisors. We're in the process of rolling out a new UI that we've been working on for about 9 months. It's a UI and a UX change. So I was pretty nervous that we were going to roll this out and not have gotten that feedback along the way. We asked a few of our key clients if they'd be interested in joining this design circle. They were. They meet with our UX, our UI, and our head of product on a monthly basis to look at changes we've made and give their input. And we have had a ton of success. They're very excited. There were a lot of things that we would have never been able to guess what the client wanted without directly bringing them into the upfront process, not the, we made it for you, now we'll make changes, but the initial discovery phase. We did an in-app survey, which is something that if you're able to do, I highly recommend it. We had spent about 3 months creating a product that we thought was great, that we thought clients were going to love. And as we were getting closer to finalizing that product, I woke up really early in the morning and felt kind of that panic that we had never actually asked if this is something that clients wanted. So we put in an in-app survey the next day, 3 different options of products that we were asking, what do you want us to build if we were to build something next? Almost no one said the product that we had thought was so great that we had built, which was a very painful lesson to learn, but also really incredible for us to be able to stop wasting our time on that and build something that clients wanted. It was also a paid product, so we ended up not trying to spin our wheels selling something that we were never going to sell. That was a big learning experience and not something we'll run into again, hopefully. And then just closing the loop with Marcom. We make sure that we let clients know every single time we roll something out, who asked for it, how many clients, what business needs it solves for. If the client's not comfortable with us sharing their information, we'll just share the industry that they're in. And it has helped with our engagement as well, because clients see that we listen, we want to engage with them. If they have product ideas or if there's something we're not doing to meet their business needs, they start talking now. On the de-escalation front, we hired 3 client service engineers. So customer success actually owns these engineers. There's a dotted line. Their direct manager is the CTO, but they actually have a dotted line to me. So anything that they're working on is a queue that I'm managing, that our team is managing, to say, we have this escalation that needs to come through. This client's trying to roll something out and needs it immediately. Or we have $2 million in revenue that needs this change. We have the power to make those decisions. That has made a huge impact on our business. We don't have to have this constant resource fight. We're the ones making the decision. It has made me more cautious in what I will put through that particular cycle, which I think was a good learning for myself. I felt like everything had to be changed. We had to go through everything, but I was forced to prioritize when they were my own people, and I can't ask them to stay until 2 o'clock in the morning every night working on these projects. We also do monthly escalation summits. So our executive team gets down once a month. We talk about clients who have canceled, clients who may be canceling. We'll go through revenue represented, what their problems are, whether it's a product issue, a service issue. We'll come up with a success plan together. So it's extremely important that the entire company is involved in the success of those clients and in the escalation process, and that it's not simply a customer success ownership. We also needed to segment our escalation path a little bit. We added in a couple of Slack channels. Dev 911 is the true emergency. Something isn't working, nothing can be logged into, and our CTO will be very nitpicky if you try to put something that is not a 911 in there. Product is for general product questions. People share ideas, thoughts, tests, try things out together. And then we also have our support specialists in a Slack channel. So 3 levels of accessibility for 3 different types of problems so that we're getting things solved in a quicker way and people are not jumping the gun and emailing all of our developers asking them a question. We also don't want our developers to be interrupted in the middle of the day, so they have a certain time of day that they go in and check these channels, except for 911. They check these channels and will give their response to people. So you know you're going to get an answer, you know what time you're going to get an answer, and they know what sort of questions are coming up with clients. We also changed the exit interviews that we did with clients that had left. We used to have a phone conversation where we would say, tell me a little bit about why you left. We would type in some notes in Salesforce, that was that. We have a full Salesforce page now with fields that you can actually report on. So buttons that you're selecting, checkboxes, et cetera. So you can look back and say, 25 clients canceled and went to this competitor for these product reasons. This is what the value was. Could we have saved this client? There's a yes, no, so that you can also look at some clients are just not the right fit for you. Some we actually could have made some changes for. Don't mess things up. This was a fun one to work on. We were doing QA in a couple of different ways. We first had QA run only through the development team. They didn't know how clients were using the product in the same way that we knew how clients were using the product, so things would get through. We tried the other way around and the entire company did QA. That was a bit of a wild test, but we also found the sales team didn't know how clients were using it either. And we were starting to involve really high quota carrying people in QA, which was not working. So we have our support team do QA now. They are the people that are going to get all the questions from the clients. They know all of the mistakes people make. They know how people do things in a way that a UX person would never be able to anticipate. So we've caught a lot more. We also developed a list of do not touch items. So there are certain changes in our system, like permission level or the photo one, that will cause could have a huge impact in the way that people are using our system. So what we did is myself and our director of operations came up with a list of, if you're going to make a change that's going to touch anything on this list, it has to go through us. There's no development work that can take place on those items without a consultation with customer success, with operations, so that we can make sure that we're not going to roll out something that has a huge impact on clients without a lot of forward thought into it. Sprint preview I touched on the other slide. We also have a release team of stakeholders now. So we have a head of the department in each of our various departments that is a part of all of our major releases, so that we ensure that we have client comm going out at the right time. The sales team knows how to sell it. The sales team and the success team are talking about the same thing when something is coming in, and we all are delivering that same message. We were doing things where we would put out new product and no one knew how to use it, how to talk about it, how much it cost, what we do, because our devs were so fast, which was great, but it was a lot of shakiness when the product would actually come out. We created a growth plan from our support team to our dev team. We found that we were lacking in that communication between dev and customer success, and part of it was the skill set was so different, and the people that we were hiring were so different. There was a lack of communication happening between them. So we started hiring more technical support people that will eventually grow into the development role, which benefits the engineers. So the engineers are much more engaged in helping that team now and making sure that they're on a path to understanding how a new release works and what they can do to help with that. We had great results. Our NPS increased by 7 points per quarter for a year. We doubled our cross-sell ability with this new plan. We also had higher enterprise retention. We did cement that seat at the table, so our CEO and president are very bought into this process now. Our CTO is also very bought into understanding how important this is. There was a pretty big improvement in client success, employee morale, and ownership. People, when they feel like they're constantly getting complaints about a product or feature request that they can't do anything about, they feel really frustrated, and that morale can go down. So there was a definite increase in that morale and engagement, and it let our developers be developers. They don't want to figure out how a client's using product. They want to work on cool product. So my recommendations for you: come with data, test, and validate, continue to get feedback. Anytime you're going into an executive meeting or trying to explain why you need a product to change, have all of the data that you possibly can backing it up. Particularly if you're talking with an engineering team, they don't work with gut and I think. You have to come in with that specific data. Part of that for us was learning how to speak in each other's language. I needed to know what mattered to that team and how I could ensure that I was talking to them in the right way. Segment the escalation approaches so that you have low, high, and medium escalation. Give ownership to the customer success team to make tough calls. Like I said, owning those developers has been really difficult for us, but has had a huge impact on our business. But we've had to learn how to let more go than we would have the other way. And make sure you are including stakeholders at multiple points in the process, not just at the beginning and the end. Questions? Please. To the CEO.
I have a mic if anybody has questions.
Thank you. I had a question around how you got involved more in like the planning and the pre-sprint.
Sure.
What does that process look like, and which teams are involved?
Sure. So it started as a very casual thing. It was a twice-a-week standing 15-minute meeting where we would start by we would go into Jira and look at what's coming out. It has gotten more evolved now, where we actually look at the preview of the product, what the mock-ups look like from our UI and UX team, and we'll talk about the specs as well if it's a major product. It's with other engineers. So we're looking at it with, typically it's a roadmap item. So the roadmap team is separate from our team. So we'll be with the roadmap team, product, head of engineering, and customer success.
How long has the customer success function been in existence?
Customer success function has been in existence since our company was in existence, which is something that I really love about our company. So we started in 2004.
Hi, I'm very interested about the career development from customer success and dev. Can you expand on that a little bit more?
Totally. So one of the things that we have done, our support team has gone into what's called a junior product manager role. So they're working directly with the product manager to do some of the pre-sprint planning, understand how we make business decisions, why we would do an integration with one provider and not with someone else. So junior product manager has been a big one. And then we have also paid for some to go through actual developer training so that they can eventually go into the full stack dev world. They start in the customer success engineer position and then expand out with their info. I imagine that as we continue to grow as a company, we have about 30 people in our dev team right now. There will continue to be more opportunity for that type of expansion, like owning integrations, owning our API, and how we're working with partners.
Hi, the monthly meeting you mentioned where key clients are getting together with the UX, UI, and head of product.
Yes.
How did you decide which customer should be involved in those meetings?
Good question. I wanted to make sure that we had clients from all industries that we support. We have about 8 or 9 that we focus on, and then each level, mid-market, SMB, and enterprise, as well as channel. I wanted to ensure they were represented equally. So it's 2 people from all of those different segments are on the team.
Can you give some insight into the negotiations that took place when you first were creating the client service engineer role? And any
Sure.
advice on how we could do this more seamlessly?
Yes, those budget discussions were interesting. It was in the middle of a really long discussion with our CEO and president and our CTO. And the CTO was saying, I am completely compensated on my ability to get new roadmap items out. And I was saying, I'm completely compensated on the exact opposite thing. We need to have some more alignment. And it was actually our CTO that pushed for having this separate team because we were pulling roadmap people off of their projects and it was slowing down the roadmap. So we were able to look at, he decided he could spare one budget for me because he thought he would save that amount of time by not having the interruptions. I spared one budget to bring in the other person, and it was really a partnership. And I think that if you try to come in and say, this is what I need, this is why, it becomes a little bit harder. But this actually had an improvement for that team as well, which increases our overall success of our business. We also changed our plans so that we're both being measured on overall company performance because you don't want 2 people with conflicting plans like that.
And are your engineers solid line into the dev team and
Yes. Solid line into the dev team, dotted to me. Yeah.
We have time for one more question.
Sure.
Yeah, I had a question for you about how you manage your product requests. So we all get bombarded with our customer requests for things. I know you mentioned Jira. Do you guys use, or what kind of product or tool do you use to help manage the request and prioritize those?
Jira is the big one for us. We do
Okay.
use Zendesk as well and have the integration between the two. But Jira is the easiest way for us to see how many clients are in it. It allows our CSMs to upvote if they want to say, I know that I've talked to a bunch of clients about this. I can't think of the exact ones, and add that way. So it's mostly tracked there. We don't currently allow clients to create their own feature requests because we have had issues with all of the duplicates that are in there and people requesting to move a button from the left to the right. So we have not released that type of functionality yet. The main thing is to train the CSM team to be able to push back on clients to say why you wouldn't consider that type of feature request, and then of course communicate if we are going to do it, when, where, and how.
So there's a 5-minute break now before the next session. Thank you, Sylvie, very
Thank you.
much. Give her a
Thanks.
round of applause.